today we have an incredible guest, one of my first mentors in the film industry, a woman I look up to significantly and always like helped me learn the ropes. And I had a healthy level of intimidation when I first met her, but she's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. It's just because she has her stuff together. But Caprice Ericson graduated from Towson University in 1995. She has was that wrong?
1985.
1985. Wow. Okay. All right. I mean, you just turned 21, right? So that's what we're going to go with. 1985. Fact check, please. She has over 30 years of film industry experience as a location scout and manager. You perhaps have seen some of the things she has worked on, from Failure to Launch to Wedding Crashers, Ladder 49, Runaway Bride, and more recently, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, amongst a long, healthy IMDb list of other films. So I'd love to just have a warm welcome. You can just clap in your own little bubbles for Caprice Ericson.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so excited to be here. And I really, truly mean that. It's such a incredible time in history that we're living through. And, you know, anything that I can do to help, you know, students, I love it and I embrace it. So thank you, Jenna, for having me. But yeah, no, I graduated from Towson State, as it was called, in 1985. I got serious at Towson. I really did. I was not a good student in high school. I actually had a direction. I knew I wanted to get in the film business, and that helped me. In my college time, I didn't waste any money or time. I had a direction. And I really enjoyed being there. And I think that when I graduated, the mass communications department, as it was, the year I graduated, got to be as big as the business department. So it was like just starting out, and really, you know, people were really coming to Towson to study film. You know, I really enjoyed my time there. So, and Robert Duvall spoke at my graduation. He was a friend of somebody in the theater department, and he actually spoke at graduation. So I thought that was kind of cool. But after I graduated from Towson, I started as a production assistant. One other caveat, I got pregnant a year after I graduated from Towson. So when I started my career in film as a production assistant, I was a mother of a 1-year-old too. So I wouldn't really do that, you know, because I think film and the hours that we work is long enough and tough enough and everything. But I did that with a 1-year-old. And my son, Halston, who's 34 now, got into the business. He just got out about 3 years ago. But every time he would just talk about the long hours, I would be like, yeah, I did that. And with you when you were 2, you know. So I started as a production assistant. I really, when I finished Towson, I thought I wanted to be an editor. I don't really know why.
You're so extroverted.
Right. I know, to be in a dark room, I'm not really sure where that came from. But, you know, I started out as a production assistant. I was very, very privileged to, not privileged, but a lot of gratitude that I really got in it with a good group of filmmakers here in Baltimore. Was very blessed that way, that they set the bar for me. And I worked as a production assistant for about 4 years, and that's a great experience because you get to see all the different departments, and a lot of people have started out as a production assistant, and they're able to experience and witness the other departments, and we usually gravitate towards a department, and that kind of how it works. But for me, I've been a photographer since I was 5 years old. I've had a camera in my hand since I was 5, and I think that my love for photography was the essence to make me be a location scout and a location manager. And
got the good eye for it.
Yeah, yeah. And the first time I scouted, a director had a job, a TV commercial. We had only and we still do, just really do have a handful of location scouts here in town. They were all booked at the time. And this director, Lee Bonner, who I adore and love, and asked me if I wanted to scout this job. And I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And I've been doing it ever since. And I really do love my department, and I love what I do. And like they say, you never work a day in your life if you do what you love. And I really do love what I do. So I've never really worked. So anyway, so that's kind of my background. So yeah, so I'm 34 years in. I have worked on a lot of features, as Jenna mentioned, but I think the core of my work is television commercials. And I really do like the, 2 weeks time, hit the ground running with the scouting, prepping, and shooting, and then we're done and on to the next project, or hopefully the next project. So that's kind of my background.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's my preference too. I like the day player status of they can't get sick of me and I can't get sick of them. In and out. Thank you so much for sharing your path. I actually have not been able to have that dialogue with you and hear about your entire path. So I know there's more details, and that was a great summary of it, but that's so wonderful to hear, how much expertise you have and experience you have, especially experience in the DMV. And I think that that's really incredible and important to rope into our conversation today, because the majority of our students do want to stay within the tri-state area and thrive and get their foot in the door here. And I know
you can succeed. Look at me, look at Jenna, you can. We were used to be called Hollywood East. We don't really have that status like we used to, but we do have, and I tell directors and producers that I work with a lot of them that come in from New York and Los Angeles and stuff, but we do have such a great crew base here, and we do have the infrastructure to do feature films, television commercials. We've got great locations, great crew, and the infrastructure to do that. So you can succeed here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that it's such a wonderful family atmosphere to be able to be raised up in and to collaborate in that you may not get in larger markets.
This is true.
Yeah. So, I could ask you more just about your general expertise forever, but today we really do want to focus a lot in on, this time that we are in right now, working and getting back to work within a pandemic. And our students are really eager, last semester, just to catch you up a little bit, when we went in shelter in place, obviously a lot of productions did not get made. Our student productions turned into more pre-production semesters. And then some students were able to continue their work with their iPhones, but not in a crew base whatsoever. And so this semester, the production labs and faculty are really striving to get equipment into our junior and seniors' hands for their, it's technically not their thesis, but that's really what they kind of call it, their thesis films. These larger projects, they're going to be working in crews of 3 and 4 in their immediate group, but then up to a cast and crew max of 10, and they're navigating this for the first time. So I'd love to start off by kind of quoting something that I watched, listened to you say, or you quote on the Ready to Roll initiatives, which we can get into. Saying that COVID is not necessarily, it's not going away anytime soon. And so it's important for us to fit productions into COVID and not fit COVID into productions in order to be successful. So I just want to start off with your expertise on that statement that you shared with me and elaborate a little bit on what that means really for the film industry.
And I'm living it now. I mean, not only are you guys just entering this, we are all just entering this. And that's a huge thing. And just to backtrack, because that is such an important statement. And if anything we talk about today, I think that is the most important thing. And I'm still using it and bringing it into conversations with my jobs now. So when the shutdown happened, I was home and I was trying to think about how this was going to affect my department. And I just immediately started thinking that I'm going to have to disinfect locations prior to the crew coming to make it safe. What do I need to do while we're shooting? And then to turn the location back over to the homeowner or to the location rep, it's going to have to be disinfected again. So I spent 6 weeks studying disinfection. That's how it all kind of started. And then as I was learning more about COVID and I was on every kind of webinar I could find, and sharing information with people in Los Angeles and across the world, actually, and just reading any kind of guideline, procedures, protocols that were coming out, and then just starting to share it with our community here. And that's kind of how I got into it. And then we do have a new crew person on set, which will be a COVID supervisor. And I thought that might be something that I might be interested in doing as actually just as another income stream, honestly. I mean, I was interested in it, but also too, like another income stream for myself. So I just started studying more about that and sharing information, and started these ready to roll webinars where we were, actually the essence of that was to get our community together, to dedicate ourselves to set safety, to have a pledge that, you know, I'm going to stay safe, I'm going to practice safe sets, and then also sharing the information, because just rolling back, we are all learning this as well. So we have seasoned veterans, people that have been in the industry like myself, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, and we're all learning this. So you're with us. So we're all learning this together. But to get back to that, what Jenna said, it actually came from a risk manager with IATSE. It was a webinar that the International IATSE put on. And these are the risk managers that have, through, you know, and they're seasoned for 30 and 40-year people too, where risk management on a set has been in the past. Are we shooting at a location that has asbestos? You know, those are the kinds of hazards. We have to think of hazards now, where, you know, we cannot bring crew in to work at a location that is not going to be unsafe, whether it's lots of different safety issues. But these are the people that are currently reviewing television series and movies that are resuming, and looking at, they have to present a safety protocol to these IATSE risk managers in order to get approved to work. So they were saying how if you take production and put into COVID, they're succeeding. If you're putting COVID into production, they're not succeeding and they're not as safe. So if you are thinking about, you know, in terms of thinking about what you need to do in order to be safe first, and then adjusting your production to that, as opposed to forcing the COVID into a production. So here's a couple examples. Don't shoot in a bathroom. It's too small. There's too many people that are close enough to each other. So TV commercials right now are adjusting their scripts and not doing things like shooting indoors. You know, if you can plan and readjust to shoot outdoors, that's going to be your safest bet. So, you know, planning on, just from the beginning, from the script, I've been saying this for a long time, we need to start with the scripts, and do not give us, you know, scenarios for these scripts that are going to be hard to shoot and keep us in close quarters without great ventilation to begin with. Let's adjust from the script to begin with, and then
that's just to jump in and then and let you continue. That's such an incredible point to just pause on and like let our students meditate on in this moment, because they're writing their scripts right now.
Yes.
So a lot of students, like in my film 2 class, they're pitching their ideas next week, so they're probably racing through trying to finish their rough drafts this week. Thinking about what Caprice just said, you know, don't think about writing a car interior or a bathroom right now to try to fit 10 people around. And even if you think, oh, it's just one person on camera, you have your person behind the camera, you have your director, you have your person that you want full focus. It's a little village. Think about every little space as like a bathroom is like an elevator. And you can even go into Towson's elevators right now, and only 2 people should be in it at any given time, right? So thinking about your scripts, what Caprice just said about try to put as much outside as possible it's starting there is so important to being able to fit your production into COVID. Yeah, I just wanted to like retouch on that because it's so important.
Yeah, no, I think the scripts, starting with the scripts is the most important right now. And it's tough because we're going to go into season. You know, we're going to go into winter and early spring. And I'm sure that's when you're going to be making your films. But if you can write them for the outdoors, that is best. I think the most important thing is to think of ventilation.
Yeah.
And if you are inside, and I actually shot in a bathroom on last Monday, and there wasn't really anything I could do about it, but I was doing what I could of going up there and opening the windows and trying to have some ventilation. But ventilation is the most important thing to do. And then also, I just want to add to this, if we're talking about scripts, one thing I want to add to that is that this is one thing I thought about. We are living in such an incredible moment right now, a moment of history. And I really feel like this moment in history has to be documented. Yeah. So my plea to all of you guys is document this moment, embrace the pandemic, write a story about the pandemic. If everybody has to have masks on, embrace that, and maybe write a script about our current climate, whether that is, I mean, there's so much to be inspired about right now, and to document it, because people are going to need these lessons and to see what we went through.
Yeah.
You know, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and these documentarians and storytellers embrace it right now. And not only just the pandemic, but we're talking about race, we're talking about women's rights, we're talking about gay rights, there's so much, this election. Embrace that and tell this story, because we are living in wild times and we need you as storytellers.
Yeah, and your perspective in your generation, you know, write what you know, write what you're feeling. And I love, one of our wonderful faculty, Lynn Tomlinson, just added a great suggestion in the chat, because you said that. I think that's incredible and absolutely relevant in incorporating so many different things into this moment. And then also for our students that are really interested in fiction, think about how creative you can even be with masks. You know, like it doesn't have to be a COVID mask, but it could be a COVID mask under another type of masquerade, or under another.
Look at Lady Gaga. I mean, there you go. There's inspiration right there, Lady Gaga.
Yeah, there's an incredible ways to look at this, not as a roadblock, but as an open door for creativity.
Yes, absolutely. We need you, your storytellers. Just your college experience right now is so different. No one's ever lived through this. No one has ever had to pivot, change, embrace, live through this. So it's a time capsule, and tell your stories and embrace it that way. So then it's not like people have to take off their masks or things like that. Like, you know, you're telling your stories.
Yeah. And it's such an incredibly difficult time that students are experiencing, but it also adds this other layer of resilience that a lot of us didn't have when we entered into the job market. You know, that they're going to have, as you and I kind of spoke in previous discussions about this, as there is a silver lining that this generation, your generation, is going to have more resilience and innovation for getting into the industry. As we were discussing, you know, like people that have had 40 plus years experience are having a harder time pivoting and taking on these new obstacles, to where you're younger, quicker with technology, quicker with innovation, minds are going to be able to adapt more quickly. You know, and then in the chat, that a wonderful faculty member, Lynn Tomlinson, also said, like, you could even film things through Zoom, which, Caprice, you had great experience with a commercial that you talked about in the Ready to Roll initiative, where weren't they directing, or you showed me a video where they were directing through Zoom, right? They had like roommates in the commercial.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to see how the commercial world has adjusted since March. So, and I do want to get back into the innovative
Yes, we
portion of
can
this too,
tap
'cause
into all of it.
it's so important. But you know, it was interesting to see because advertising needed to continue even after March. So, from what I understand, a lot of the advertisers at first had to have kind of like damage control, not damage control, but were these retailers, brands, did they have things currently on the air when the pandemic hit and we were shut down that were inappropriate, that wasn't sensitive to the time or whatever? Those spots got pulled. You saw a lot of the beginning of the commercials where we're all in it together and brands were, you know, saying, you know, just not embracing, but just like,
A
you
lot
know,
of
pulling together.
archival iPhone videos and stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Then, you know, then we weren't doing things. So what these innovators were creating, first it started with Zoom. So there was one commercial. Now I'm trying to remember. I think it was Michelob. No, was it Michelob? I'll think about it in a second. I think it was some kind of beer. They had these roommates and they did a casting session looking for roommates. And they had to do an audition, tell the advertisers about themselves, show their apartment, and then they were selected. And through just, you know, not even no contact, physical contact, they were selected. The art director shipped all this set dressing just to make their apartment look more like an oasis, and their patio on their rooftop, I think they were in New York, you know, make it look so much grand. So they shipped all this stuff to them. The art director through Zoom told the girls where to place the palm tree and to put the little desk and all this stuff. And then they had camera equipment, and these women did not have any film experience whatsoever, you know, had all this camera gear shipped, not a lot of camera gear, these packages that were created. Somebody walked them through Zoom on how to set up cameras, where to put the angles, how to light it a little bit. And then when they decided to shoot it, they were directed through the director through Zoom. So that's kind of how things started happening, and a lot of people started innovating, like camera operators, like DIT, like video assist, just started creating all these different types of camera packages. There's all kinds of, and this isn't, I don't really know that much about it, but these other ways of conferencing everyone through Zoom and Blue Jean and all these other programs to get that through. So now we're kind of coming out of that, and we're actually doing live action, and we are back on set, and it's a smaller number of people. That advertising people and the clients are not with us, but they are with us through Zoom. Okay. But getting into the innovative things, where in the past we would have the clients and the advertising agents with us, they would be, you know, sitting in director's chair by a monitor, communicating with the director as to, you know, what they liked, what they didn't, could we move on, did we have set it up a different way? And now that is all done through virtual. So this whole new technology, virtual technology, is just amazing. So whereas us older generation that have been doing this and kind of set in our ways, now we need to relearn everything and adjust and pivot and learn. And some people are embracing it and some people are not embracing it. Some people think that, well, by the time we get a vaccine, we'll be back to the old ways. And I'm not so sure that's going to be the case. I think, you know, things are changing, and they're probably changing for the better, because we were, and Jenna can tell you, we were working at a pace that was unsustainable.
Yeah.
It was no money, no time, high expectations, you know, pull the rabbit out of the hat like we always did. You know, I mean, I would get a call on a Monday going, you know, we need these 3 locations and we're shooting on Thursday. Yeah. Where now people are knowing, it's again, putting production into COVID, spending more time planning, thinking it out, working it out. Even on the feature films, there's going to be no more the day before, oh, we need a 45-foot techno crane and we're going to get it in here tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more planning involved.
And I think that's important. I mean, I think it got to the point before COVID where I felt like the whole last year of work I had was this, all of a sudden, every job I was doing was cramming 2-day shoots into one day. And it turned into these like aggressive, unsafe 14-hour days where all these location moves took place and it wasn't enough crew. And I think COVID is making everyone in every industry, but making everybody work slower and understand that we have to, because slower is safer. And so that helps tie back into our student sets as well, where it's like when you're writing these scripts, going back to what we were saying about writing the scripts, you know, write for one location outside, or write for maybe 2 locations in your 10-minute film, not 6, not 5, you know, write for 1 actor or 2 actors. Don't write for 20 people. Simple doesn't mean non-entertaining or bad. You know, simple can actually allow you more time to tweak everything in your frame and make it better. And then also thinking about the awesome commercial example, and I know I have a link from you, so I'll post that in the chat so students can watch the commercial that Caprice was talking about. You know, if you don't feel comfortable working in your groups physically, think about what Caprice just shared with us, and that you can do all of your pre-production through Zoom, and you could even write your script so you're all shooting like maybe one scene virtually, where you shoot at your house and then your crew is on Zoom, and then your crew member could shoot the next scene at their house and all of you are on Zoom. You know, you can try to be innovative and pare down in such a way where you can collaborate to however your comfort level. You know, I think that that's something that we can really be more creative with than looking at it as this restriction.
Right. Don't look at it as a restriction. And as you're talking and I'm thinking and I'm going, you know, don't fit yourselves into our old ways. Fit yourselves into the new ways of doing things. Start out with the new ways, because I guarantee you, if you embrace this new technology, this new way of shooting, problem solving, you guys are going to be on the cutting edge. We're the dinosaurs. We've been doing it. I mean, geez, when I started out, we were shooting on film. I mean, I lived through the digital age. I was one of the last people to stop shooting film when I was scouting, because I love the medium so much, but now it's so much easier and faster. I love it, but embracing these new technologies, that's going to help you after graduation, getting your foot in the door, because we're not going back to the way it was. So embrace the new technology and move with the new technology. That would be my suggestion to you all.
That's fantastic. I want to move into a little bit of some logistical questions, but I also want to use this as a great point. We're halfway through our time. Students, if you have questions, please start typing into the chat now. I can obviously keep talking to Caprice. I love doing that, but we're here for you today, especially. So if you start having questions, Travis, if you could just help monitor the chat a little bit, I'll start asking my logistical questions to Caprice, but I would love to turn as much over to the students as possible. So the first question that I wanna tackle from your observations and just the conversations as well with Ready to Roll that you've had is, how are departments working to social distance as much as possible on set, or how are departments working to rotate, or what are the logistics you've seen take place in terms of changing for COVID?
Right. Well, I think I'm usually the first person into a location, and I'm just going to use just an example, a house. So my job as a location manager, once we find the location, is I need to protect the house, which means I'm basically covering hardwood floors, covering the carpets with carpet protectors, so that my job is to get the crew in to work comfortably in our surroundings, but at the same time protecting the home. So my job last week, and this isn't unusual, I came in the day before put all the I was the only one there at the house, put all the carpet protector down, protected the floors, protected the staircase. So we're kind of layering now, where before, when we showed up at locations, we had the set dressing department and they're dressing the set, and we had lighting department, the grips and electrics, they're in setting up the lights, and we had the camera departments in, and we were all together doing everything. Now that's a no-no. So we should be layering things. So, you know, having the pre-production crew like myself coming in, getting things set. Then you have the set dressing crew come in. They're the only ones on location right there. I mean, people could be outside waiting, but this is what also is going into having things take more time.
Yeah.
So now what you were saying, how we were cramming a 2-day shoot into a 1-day shoot, now we should have a 1-day shoot that's taking 3 days to shoot, because it's taking longer to only have a set amount of people in that space at a time. So set dressing comes in. Then whether you want the camera to set up in order for the people to light it, or the grip and electrics into light, and then set the cameras up. So we're layering. Then off-site, we have hair, makeup, and wardrobe, getting the talent ready, and they're not necessarily in the same space. So they could be outside, they could be in the garage, they can be in a whole nother location. So we don't want us piling into these locations like we used to. And that's another thing. It's tough for us, people that have been doing it that way for a long time. Like, we all have to remind each other, no, you know, we need to get this done first, and then you can come in. And it's a whole new way of doing things, because that's not how we used to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what about, in line with that as well, when actors are brought on to set? You know, have you found or heard through all of the Ready to Roll that we're like clearing out the set for actors to come on without masks, or limiting rehearsals, or, you know, what have you noticed that are the changes regarding talent? Because for some students, this is going to be their first time ever directing, and their first time ever even just having that interpersonal experience of needing to direct talent. So this adds an extra layer of anxiety to that I'd love to just ease.
Yeah. Well, I haven't, you know, it's been slow getting working again. I've only had one live action shoot last week. I can't say that things were, and I wasn't the COVID person. I was strictly the location manager, and I had to stick in my department. But my observation, it could have been better. But instead of saying what was wrong, let me tell you what's right to do.
Yeah.
So yes, we need to be masked all the time. And in the very beginning of our initiative, we were hearing how clients were coming on the set, and at the time, this was a couple months ago, weren't wearing masks. And we all decided that if we come onto a set and someone refuses to wear a mask, that we are taking a knee. And we just dedicated, like, we are not going to work, even if though you're the client, you've got the money and you're hiring us and everything else, that our lives are still what's most important. So I think we're beyond that now, but that was definitely consideration that we were talking about back in May. Mm-hmm. So what should happen is everyone wears masks. If you do not need to be around the talent, don't be around the talent. On my job last week, I did not need to be around the talent. We had a VIP, I showed him where to park, and really I did not have to have any more interaction with that person, and I stayed away from that person. So during rehearsals, during, you know, everyone should have a mask on. Then after you've done your rehearsal and your set, the lighting crew does not need to be standing there. They can be outside on standby to jump in, to make an adjustment if need be. So then very limited people around the talent when they're unmasked. Everyone should be wearing a mask and a face shield. Washing your hands like crazy. That's very, very important. I have to have hand washing stations. I always did on set, but now more than ever. encouraging everyone to, we had hand sanitizer everywhere, washing our hands all the time, cleaning those spaces every hour to make sure that the hygiene was taken care of. And then the minute you're done rehearsal, if you need to make an adjustment, that talent needs to put their mask right back on. Get out. If you can open windows, that's important. Be outside, be the distance, and really the only people that need to be close by, you know, focus puller, you know, DP, sound person, makeup and wardrobe can be away if they're needed for an adjustment. They can, and also too, makeup and wardrobe, they shouldn't be fussing with people's clothing. They should say, hey, straighten your suit jacket, you know, pull down your, you know, suit jacket a little bit. As less interaction with each other, the better. Because here's the other thing. This was in addition to the, you know, fitting production into COVID. The one thing that I learned about those risk managers is that we are the hazard.
Yeah.
We, as the people, are now the hazard. We're the risk.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to think about that in our lives, with our family, with our friends. I'm a hugger. Us huggers are having a really difficult time, you know?
Yeah, elbow bumps don't cut it.
We are the hazard.
Yeah.
And so when we were talking about asbestos and a lot of other types of safety things on set, because sets are not a playground. They are dangerous. We have electricity, we have cables, we have stands, and you know, all these other things that we need to be, you know, we're doing stunts and car chases and all this other crazy stuff. But now we, the people, are the hazard.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing in life and in filmmaking. We are the hazard. So whatever you can do to protect yourself and to protect the others, that's what you need to do.
I think those are such incredibly important takeaways, and easy to put into your mind that all of this starts at the pre-production process, you know, writing COVID safety into your script, and then understanding that it's not, obviously we're looking at all the other safety concerns, live electricity, not filming near poison ivy, etc., but understanding that we are also the hazard. I think those are so great to touch on. We've got 2 questions from students, which is fantastic. So our first one is from a wonderful student, Kara Sands, and she asks, what kinds of documents is production using to monitor safety? Is it something like a checklist that you use? What's happening in that regard?
Well, on my job last Monday, we had a COVID supervisor. She was an RN, she's a nurse. But this isn't anything that you can't do on your own. So there are simple, Jenna and I can get them for you to have. But it's the same kind of questionnaire if you went to the dentist right now. They're going to ask you, are you living with anybody that's been COVID positive? How are you feeling today? You know, just those standard questions that, like I said, if you go to the dentist, it's pretty much the same questionnaire. There's an advisement. If you feel ill, do not come to work.
Yeah.
Do not come to work. And that's also because this can come on so quickly. And I mean, Jenna, how many times have you gone to set when you've had a stomach ache, a headache, felt like crap? We're still going to go to work, but now we can't do that.
The first time I ever dolly gripped, and I was so excited to do it, I think I had 102-degree fever, and I was like delirious by the end of the day. And it was, and now, right, living in a pandemic, living in COVID, I am so aware of how incredibly stupid that was, you know, and I say that example because when we're new at something, we fear we're never going to have that opportunity again. Right. But I would have, you know, but you know, so that's something to think about too as students. Don't be a hero.
Don't be a hero. Right. So now what we're doing in our world too is that, you know, these things can come up so quickly. So not only do we have our booking crew, is that we have a standby crew. So if the camera operator wakes up and is not feeling well, we got to have a backup to come to replace that person now. So again, if you have any symptoms, do not show up. That's a big no-no. Don't do that. But basically, what we're doing is we're doing the questionnaires, temperature checking, checking, seeing how we're feeling throughout the day, unless we're required to have a COVID test prior to showing up.
And I think that temperature checking is a great thing as well. I've done 2 or 3 shoots since COVID, and it's about a $30 investment for your production to make. And if you plan on crowdfunding, you could put this into your crowdfunding, getting a no-touch digital thermometer. And before students or whoever your crew, your cast is, before they enter set for that day, you can stand a couple feet away from them and just scan their temperature. And I think that it just immediately offers you a peace of mind of like starting the day off without that fear or that concern. And I've felt really respected when I've been on set and that's happened. I think that that's great to think about putting in your kit when you're buying C47s or you're buying extra tape from Target. Maybe consider picking up a thermometer, touchless thermometer as well. I think that's great. And just to touch on that as well, the production labs and your production faculty have put together a document like what Caprice is talking about, and especially in film 2 and film 3, we'll be revealing and going over this document with you as we go on to our pre-production. So we have another question, and I'm gonna try to offer for students when they ask questions, if they want to ask you directly, they can. So I'm gonna unmute Lincoln and let him ask his question.
Hi, how's it going? I was wondering if you could explain a little bit about how these new COVID safety positions work and how they work specifically with the AD department and the production department on set, and like what the breakup of responsibility for safety in regards to COVID it has been kind of in these new sets, or how that's changed.
Yeah. It's a great question. Again, it's degrees. Big feature films, it's a lot different than a television commercial, which is a lot different than, smaller corporate projects. So I think, in the feature world, they have a department. So that is with a health safety supervisor, and that person should have a medical background. That person is taking care of making sure that all the testing is happening, because with all the zoning, if you're in zone A and working around the camera and the actors, you're getting tested 3 days a week. If you're in zone B, which you're in the office and you're not incorporating or not interacting with zone A, you're getting tested once a week. And it's a lot of that, so that they can test and trace and keep on top of that. The health safety manager, which is because I'm not a medical person, that was the person that I was most interested in segueing possibly into that department. That person is making sure that people are wearing their mask properly, that they're social distancing, that you're reminding them, hey guys, you got to separate. You can't be sitting on the tailgate of the grip truck, just sitting there talking. And also doing the disinfection. So I don't want to get into disinfection a lot, but it is a very important component of what you're doing. So on your shoots, you should have disinfection that is, and I'm just going to say this one thing, that it can't just be, okay, 2 things. First, things should be cleaned with soap and water, because the one good thing about the pandemic is that the virus can't live. We can, we wash our hands with soap and we can get rid of it, so that's the one good thing about the pandemic. You want to be using any kind of disinfection that's 99.9 or 99.99 effective to killing bacteria and the SARS-CoV-2. So, surfaces that you're touching a lot need to be wiped down. Gear that's getting passed back and forth needs to get wiped down. It's hard to find these Lysol wipes and things like that, but things aren't out there if you go to a janitorial. And I don't know if you guys, maybe buy a supply that can get handed off to each group that's going out to do their production or something. Maybe the school will help with that. I don't know. But you know, when you're in the bathrooms, making sure that every once in a while somebody's going in there to wipe down the faucets and just keep things clean. So we really should be wiping down anything that we're sharing. And also know that if things haven't been touched in 3 days because they've been quarantined and you're not using grip and electric stands for 3 days, it's pretty clean. You know that it's, you know, the quarantine is your best friend of stuff that hasn't been used in a while. But if you're handing off things should be wiped down. So that COVID person, and then also the person that's doing the questionnaire and the temperature taking, checking with people. The other thing is when you eat lunch, that's another thing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that's a tough thing for us because back before COVID, we would sit down and that's when we socialize because we haven't seen each other and we have a lot to say and we want to catch up with people. So you're taking your mask off to eat, but you're also talking, and that's what you shouldn't be doing. So, or you're talking about the next setup or tomorrow's work or whatever. But honestly, you need to be 6 feet apart. On Monday, I pulled a chair up in the backyard and I sat there by myself and just ate and took my mask off. But you got to be careful. You take that mask off. If you put it on the table, are you contaminating the table? So I feel like when you come to set, here's the sequence. When you come to set with your mask on, and it should be clean. I saw a lot of dirty masks on Monday, not a lot, a couple. It should be a clean mask. You wash your hands once you come to set. You do your questionnaire. You get your temperatures taken. At lunch, you stay away from each other, take your masks off, eat your food, stick your mask someplace safe that you're not contaminating the table or something. And then immediately after eating, put that mask right back on and wash your hands throughout the day as much as you possibly can.
Does that answer your question, Lincoln?
Yeah, that pretty much covered, I think, most of the stuff I was interested in. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And to elaborate on that as well, I did a job the other week and the production assistant picked up lunch and everything was individually packaged and wrapped. They asked the provider, it wasn't Chipotle, but it was like a Chipotle-like place, to write every person's name on each order, each individually wrapped package with Sharpie. So that happened where at the food place where the employee had gloves on and could write our names. So the production assistant just sat everything out, spaced out, and we would go, take a break, go to the bathroom and wash our hands, then come out and one at a time go pick up our food and then find a place to sit. And we all ended up making like a huge circle where we were all like probably 10 feet apart, but we could still kind of talk to each other. So we found a way for it to be social, but it was outside. I just put my mask on my lap at the time, washing your hands beforehand and after. And then having it individually wrapped was really helpful. And this goes for your beverages as well. It's an infamous thing where there are water bottles on set and people don't write their names on them, then they lose track of their water bottles. One, it's just wasteful. And then two, with COVID, you can't take that risk. So just making sure that things are just everything is just very clearly labeled should be something that you should put into consideration. And
the other things I would add about the whole food situation, on my job on Monday, I brought my stuff. I brought stuff, I just packed my own lunch. I had the drinks I wanted. I didn't have to deal with that. Yeah. But, early on we were talking like, oh my God, you can't even stick your hand into a cooler any longer to get a drink or a water. So on our job Monday, and this is the requirement for craft services, is that you have one person, and it's almost like concession style. Do you want a drink? That person reaches in the cooler with a thing on your hand, hands you the water bottle, has some individually wrapped snacks. You say, I want the Rice Krispie treats, they give it to you, The other thing that really didn't happen the other day on set, which I didn't think, but you know, when you're around an unmasked actor, it's so, I mean, we have to stay hydrated. That's another thing. It's so important for us to stay hydrated throughout the day.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be taking your mask off to get a drink of water and the talent is standing there unmasked. You really need to, we should be having breaks every 2 hours for 15 minutes for everybody to go outside, get some fresh air, take your mask off, drink a bottle of water. But we really should be having these designated areas that you go to drink some water. You shouldn't just be by camera, oh, I'm thirsty, here's my water bottle. That's labeled, but you know, taking your mask off or lifting it up to drink, that's kind of a no-no.
Yeah, and that's so incredibly important to mention for a variety of reasons, but one of them being too, as students, as you get more experience on set, you find that like the camera department is the leaves set least almost out of anyone else. And so making mandatory breaks that are crew wide, or, you know, maybe in staggered shifts, but making sure you're advocating for yourself that you need a break as well. You know, if you're looking at your watch and it's been an hour, it's been 2 hours, you need to take a mask break and get some water. And this is something, some of you may be very extroverted and it comes second nature to you, but some of you may be a little bit more shy. This is an important time to learn how to advocate for your needs and speak up if something feels unsafe, or if you feel unsafe. You know, there is no situation where your film set or a film set you work on after you graduate is worth your life at all. And so, you know, it could be difficult to figure out how to listen to that little voice and speak up, but this is a really important time to say, hey, I think we all need to take a break, or hey, I think a few people keep taking their masks off and I feel unsafe right now, or I think that we need to make sure that people are spaced out a little further than this, or we have too many people in this room right now. Everyone should be helping be a safety monitor during this time, and it's incredibly important that everyone is helping each other out. You know, we don't have to use call out culture for it, but we can very professionally and just professionally say, like, you need to have your mask on, please. You need to step away further to take a drink of water, or we need to take a break now so we can all wash our hands.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And we could spend a whole hour talking on speaking up. But I'll just say two things. The one thing that I noticed on set the other day is, like, if somebody wanted to say something to me kind of quietly or confidentially, you know, you always lean in, you know, and I'm like, you know, I want to hear, you know, you don't want to blurt out something like, you know, that you don't want the rest of the crew to hear, but and we do that in life too. We lean in to like tell somebody, and we got to be like, whoa now. But I think that's so important. I mean, this could be a conversation when you talk about Sarah Jones another time with safety on sets, but you have to trust your gut in life, in COVID, in filmmaking. Trust your gut. If something doesn't feel right, that's why we have that intuition. That's why we have that feeling in our gut. It's the whisper that something's not right. So if you can, you know, kindly say, hey, you know, can we do this a little differently? Or I'm not feeling comfortable doing this. So many times on a production, the production assistants always wind up being asked to do something they really shouldn't do. And I will on set speak up for them if I see, because I know and I have the knowledge that you know, a production assistant should not be out on the road holding traffic for sound. No, the police officers need to do that. PAs do not hold traffic. I will go up and say, because PAs don't know, they're just, you know, you just want to do and whatever you're told. But if you don't, you know, and also too, if you're on a bigger production, every department has a department head, and they are in charge of safety. And like Lincoln said, the assistant director's job is set safety. Now, again, they have a whole nother layer with the COVID and the COVID supervisors kind of taking that role. But the assistant director's job is set safety. So they are certainly the person you could go to say, I don't feel comfortable doing this. you can certainly ask a department head like myself or Jenna or somebody to say, I don't feel comfortable doing this, and we will speak up for you. I have no problem doing that.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and another point on this too, that students are just learning for the very first time, is the importance, or just maybe even just understanding what a safety meeting is, and that when you get to set, when everyone is there at their call time before the camera ever rolls, whoever is taking that AD role, or if there isn't an assistant director on set, whoever is taking that producer role, director role, sometimes even key grip role, that they're bringing everyone together socially distanced, and they're going over any safety concern that people need to be respectful of and aware of that day. And it's not just one safety meeting for the whole 6-month or 1-week shoot. It's a safety meeting every single day.
Yeah.
And it can be short, but it's a good moment for everyone to, maybe you have some new people on set that day and we just need to say names and career, or in our department position, but then also it's saying where the hand washing stations are for the day, saying how lunch is going to be given out safely, saying where you can go if you do need to take a mask break, or you do need to take your mask off and have some water for a second. And then the regular safety concerns, like where electricity is running, or where there might be poison ivy, or don't curse because there's kids on set, you know. All of these things should be talked about every day before the camera ever rolls.
That's true. And what we are doing, what we're finding is, and I think it's important, that doing a Zoom meeting the night before, so that you can go through the day, people that can understand what to expect the next day, what's being provided. If anybody has any questions, it can be asked then, but you would still do a safety meeting when you arrive. So safety meetings back in the day prior to COVID, we had them when we were working on water, when we were doing a stunt. A lot of times we didn't do safety meetings, but now, more importantly, yes, we should be doing safety meetings, whether just reminders, wash your hands during the day. If you're not feeling good in the middle of the day, let us know. Just spacing out, and all those reminders of doing a safety meeting. It's just checking in before we get started in the day.
That's fantastic. We are basically out of time with you, and I just want to offer up any last final questions from anyone before we say a huge thank you to Caprice for her time. Or Travis or Mark, I don't know if you had a question that you wanted to ask. No.
Well, one thing I just want to add for information for everybody, because we're all learning this and things are changing. Things that we were talking about in May are not necessarily what we're talking about now in September. Yeah. But just, to give you some helpful things to look at. So yes, we did these, we called them the Ready to Roll Initiative, which was these webinars that we did over a 6-week period. And then we also had Zoom meetings the same day on different departmental Zoom meetings, which Jenna was the host with the Grip and Electric one that we did. So those webinars and Zoom meetings are on DC Camera's YouTube page.
And I just posted them in the chat for everyone.
Great. So lots of information. Again, things happened weeks and months ago where maybe they're not topical right now, but there's still a lot of good general information there. So I definitely encourage you all to check out those webinars and the Zoom meetings, which are all, Mid-Atlantic, we're all our community related. The other thing is there is a Safe Sets International. It's a totally free course that everyone should take, and it gives you the basics for everything on COVID-related production.
Is this Georgia Film Academy one, or is this a separate one?
The separate one, Safe Sets International.
Okay.
And the Georgia Film Academy, you do not have to be a Georgia resident. It doesn't cost anything. You just have to register. They have COVID courses, but they're departmentalized, which is great. And I just went on this morning, and they just, since the last time I checked, they have a sound one now, and they have a production office one. But they're doing every single department, but they got a hair and makeup one right now, and they've got a camera one. So the Georgia Film Academy, And then please join us on the Surviving the DMV Facebook page. Everybody thinks it's the page I created. I did not. I post a lot. But I put anything I find, directives, anything, I just post it on there. And if you just look at all the archives, there's a ton of information on there. And also too, if you guys haven't discovered Amy, who is an actress in Los Angeles that does all these very funny departmentalized videos, like the shit AC say, or the shit that script supervisors say. It's very funny, very lighthearted, but very true. So to get a big chuckle and a laugh, check out Amy. I post all her videos up there.
That's fantastic. And I've just posted the name of the Facebook group to everyone in the chat, as well as the Georgia Film Academy, the DC Camera Ready to Roll videos. There are so many different topics that Caprice and so many other industry professionals cover in these Ready to Roll initiatives that you could find something for nearly every department, and just getting back on set, as well as studies of groups of people, of crews that, you know, went out and did it and talked about what worked and what didn't work. And then we also have a couple of other links that Caprice thought was helpful, by Produzen, which is a YouTube channel as well. And then just a couple other roundtables and things that you can look at during this time of pre-production. So, you know, really think about today that as you're writing your scripts, that COVID planning starts now, that it's important to fit our productions into COVID and not fit COVID into our productions. I hope that this time with Caprice Ericson was helpful for you. I know I picked up a couple of new things because, as she said, we're all in this together and we're all learning every single day. So I just want to say thank you so much, Caprice, for your time, and thank you to everybody who took time out of their schedule to join us and to be educated with Caprice today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed it.